added. Okay, what we will do is we will keep discussing on these aspects of the interesting patterns. And in the meanwhile, if some more are joining, it will be better because I'm taking up the square roots today. Okay. So good afternoon and welcome to the class. Now we were just beginning to learn the interesting patterns with triangular numbers. So this is exactly what is discussed in your page number 92, 93 and 94 in your textbook. There are a few more interesting patterns with numbers given there. So I'm not going to spend more time on that. You may read through your textbook and write down these patterns also in your classwork. Like the first one, adding triangular numbers is what we have done yesterday. Now further, the second one is numbers between square numbers. This is something that you can read from there and try to understand and write it in your classwork. The third interesting variety of patterns that we see is adding odd numbers. When we successively add odd numbers, there is a specific pattern which gets generated. So you have to discover that pattern, understand and write it down. Okay. And the fourth one is a sum of consecutive natural numbers. Again, when you successively add the consecutive natural numbers, again a new pattern will be generated. And this pattern you have to understand and write it down in your classwork. And the fifth and the sixth one again are dealing with product of two consecutive even or odd numbers. And some more patterns based on various other ways of generating an array of numbers is discussed. So these 6 points which are clearly explained in the textbook, you can go through on your own and generate the pattern and complete it as notes in your classwork. Is that clear? So I'm not discussing all this today. I will straight away go to the square roots. Now, before I go to the square roots, I would like to discuss on a Pythagorean triplet. What is a Pythagorean triplet? I want to discuss. So that is a short video that I will play for you, which you will go through and again complete your notes with regard to a Pythagorean triplet. How to identify a Pythagorean triplet and what are these Pythagorean triplets is what we will see now. Is that clear? And people who have joined late, please do not forget to put your names in the chat box. Otherwise, you are just missing your attendance. Okay. So now what I will do is I will share the screen and play a short video. Means I'm just playing a small portion of an entire video because I want to only showcase what is a Pythagorean triplet. Sorry, 1 minute. I think I selected the wrong one. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm just going to play this video. So I will go and mute myself now so that you only listen to the video.
Students, observe the numbers 3, 4, 5. Can we relate these numbers in terms of their squares? Yes, we know that 3 square plus 4 square, that is equal to 9 plus 16, which is equal to 25, but this 25 is equal to 5 square. So that is 3 square plus 4 square is equal to 5 square. Now let us observe a collection of 3 such special numbers called Pythagorean triplet. Students, now let us observe the definition of Pythagorean triplet. The collection of 3 numbers a, b, c are called as Pythagorean triplet if a square plus b square is equal to c square.
Okay, so what is the definition of a Pythagorean triplet is what is being said here. So this you should be able to write it down in your notebook. So there are many more such Pythagorean triplets which are available. So you may go and discover those Pythagorean triplet keeping this condition in mind. Three numbers or three natural numbers will become Pythagorean triplets if they satisfy the condition in such a way that a square plus b square is equal to c square, then a, b and c will be called a Pythagorean triplet. All right. So we will see some more examples on that. So let me go back.
Students, now let us observe some of the examples for Pythagorean triplet. The numbers 3, 4 and 5 forms Pythagorean triplet because 3 square plus 4 square is equal to 9 plus 16, that is equal to 25, which is nothing but 5 square. So it satisfies our condition a square plus b square is equal to c square. Let us consider another example. The numbers 6, 8, 10 also forms Pythagorean triplet because 6 square plus 8 square is equal to 10 square. In general, we observe that for any natural number m greater than 1, we have 2m whole square plus m square minus 1 whole square is equal to m square plus 1 whole square. So the numbers 2m, m square minus 1 and m square plus 1 forms a Pythagorean triplet.
So this is the general form that you will see a Pythagorean triplet can be formed. For any value of m greater than 1, if this condition gets satisfied, then those three numbers will definitely become a Pythagorean triplet. So this is what you have to understand. All right. Now again, I'll resume.
Ma'am?
Speaking in between. Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, should the Pythagorean triplet should be consecutive numbers or any numbers?
That's exactly what I want you to discover. That's why I have given you the condition. Now, based on this condition, give values to m and find out if they always have to be consecutive numbers or not. This is exactly what I want you to discover on your own. That inquisitiveness is very good. I like it. But now I'm not going to give you an answer for that directly. Using this condition, you can find it out on your own and see if always they require to be consecutive natural numbers.
Okay,
Clear?
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Observe that 2m whole square plus m square minus 1 whole square is equal to 2m whole square is 4m square plus m square minus 1 whole square is going to be m to the power of 4 minus 2 times m square times 1 plus 1 square. This is by the identity a minus b whole square is equal to a square minus 2ab plus b square. So now we get 4m square plus m to the power of 4 minus 2m square plus 1. So here we write m to the power of 4 as a first term. Upon simplifying 4m square minus 2m square, we get plus 2m square and we are left with plus 1. So here we observe that m to the power of 4 plus 2m square plus 1 is nothing but m square plus 1 whole square. So therefore we observe that 2m whole square plus m square minus 1 whole square is equal to m square plus 1 whole square. Students, now let us try to solve some of the problems based on Pythagorean triplet. The first problem goes like this. Find a Pythagorean.
Now I think you can take down this problem as he is trying to show it to you there. So he is giving you an example of using the Pythagorean triplet to solve the given problem there. So you will write down this problem and try it on your own also. I shall play the video also. If you have any doubt, you can always ask. I'll play the video and then get back to you. Clear?
Pythagorean triplet whose smallest number is 8. Students, we know that we get Pythagorean triplet by taking the general form 2m, m square minus 1 and m square plus 1. So firstly, m square minus 1 is equal to 8. So m square is equal to 8 plus 1, that is equal to 9, which gives us m is equal to 3. So therefore 2m is equal to 2 times 3, that is equal to 6, and m square plus 1 is equal to 3 square plus 1, that is 10. So the triplet is thus 6, 8 and 10. But 8 is not the smallest number of this. So let us try 2m is equal to 8. Then m is equal to 4, and so we get m square minus 1, that is equal to 16 minus 1, that is equal to 15, and m square plus 1 is equal to 16 plus 1, that is equal to 17. So the triplet that we got in this case is 8, 15 and 17. So here clearly 8 is the smallest number. So our answer is 8, 15, 17, which is a Pythagorean triplet whose smallest number is 8.
I hope you understood this problem. See, the problem given was how you have to find out a Pythagorean triplet whose smallest number is 8. So among the three possibilities that we have, that is 2m, m square plus 1 and m minus 1. One of these has to become 8. So which will we select as 8 is by random selection only. See, first time he selected either 2m as 8 or m square plus 1 as 8. So wherever you are able to select it and get the answer, you have to check. After you get the triplet, you have to check whether among the triplet that you have got, 8 is the smallest or not. So in the first case, he didn't get 8 as the smallest number in the given triplet. So what did he do? He chose the second option as 8. And when he tried to get the triplet, he clearly understood in the second case, 8 was the smallest among the three numbers, that is the triplets. So you cannot stop with your guess in the first case. See, you can arbitrarily start with any of the three values as 8. And then once you get the triplet, you should not stop there. You should see whether the triplet you have obtained is satisfying the condition that 8 is the smallest number among the given triplet. So that's why he had to repeat it the second time. I hope you followed that. Any doubt in that? Maybe it is a little fast for you to grasp. So maybe you may have to replay it again after the class and see. Again, you can come back to me if you are not satisfied with the explanation given there. Shall I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what we will do is, now I have another video where we are just introducing how the square roots are coming up and what are the various ways in which we can find out the square root of a given number. So to first start with, we will try to understand what is the square root, because we know square numbers. We have completely concentrated on squares of numbers in the previous class. So today we are going to see what are square roots of numbers. So that introduction also I'll use a short video, means a portion of an entire video, to tell you what is the square root and what are the methods that we adopt to find the square root of these numbers. Okay. So
Let's try to look at this method by taking an example. So here let us find out the square root of 25.
sorry, I had to play it from the beginning. I shall replay it. Sorry.
Write it as 5 square is equal to 3 square plus x square. Upon simplification, we can write this as x square is equal to 25 minus 9, which implies x square is equal to 16. So, now we need to find a x whose square is equal to 16. Students, can we find a number whose square is equal to 16? Well, we will also address this in the today's class. So now, if you observe these two problems, the first one, whenever the area of a square is been given, can we find its length of a side? And the second one, in a right angle triangle, when the hypotenuse and one of a side is been given, can we find the other side? So, these sort of questions needs a number whose square is been known.
Ma'am,
So, we will try to discuss more about this in today's class.
ma'am, it's echoing if you on the mic, ma'am.
Sorry, I forgot to switch it off. Should I play from the beginning?
It's okay, ma'am.
Now, if you want me to play, I shall replay it. Was it a real disturbance?
Ma'am, you played from first.
Okay, yeah, I shall do it. Sorry, I forget. Because I'm switching between the tabs, I forget to switch this off. And I need to speak in between. So somehow I feel that I have to leave it on there. And I know it is creating trouble. Sorry, children. I shall repeat from the beginning, okay?
In the last class, we had seen how to find the squares of the given number. And so, whenever we have the length of a side of a square, we can always find the area of a square. But if the area of a square is been given, can we find the length of a side of the square? Yes, we will discuss about it in the today's class. But before that, I have another question. Suppose in a right angle triangle, if a hypotenuse and a side of a triangle is given to be 5 and 3 units respectively, can we find the other side of the right angle triangle? Think about it. Yes, we can find by using the Pythagoras theorem. Do you all remember Pythagoras theorem? Well, let me state it for you. Pythagoras theorem states, in a right angle triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of other two sides. So now, by using this Pythagoras theorem, let us try to solve it. Look at the given right angle triangle. So here, we were given with hypotenuse to be 5 centimeter, and let us consider one of the side to be 3 centimeter. So now, by Pythagoras theorem, we can write it as 5 square is equal to 3 square plus x square. Upon simplification, we can write this as x square is equal to 25 minus 9, which implies x square is equal to 16. So, now we need to find a x whose square is equal to 16. Students, can we find a number whose square is equal to 16? Well, we will also address this in the today's class. So now, if you observe these two problems, the first one, whenever the area of a square is been given, can we find its length of a side? And the second one, in a right angle triangle, when the hypotenuse and one of a side is been given, can we find the other side? So, these sort of questions needs a number whose square is been known. So, we will try to discuss more about this in today's class, which is about the square roots. Students, finding a number whose square is known is called as finding the square root, and the number which we find is the square root of a given number. So, remember, we already know that
Subtraction is the reverse process of addition.
In fact, we also know that division is the inverse of multiplication. In a similar way, finding the square root is the inverse of squaring. So now, let's try to look at some of the examples. So we know that 1 square is equal to 1. So therefore, 1 is the square root of 1. Next, we also know that 2 square is equal to 4. Then 2 is the square root of 4. In a similar way, we have 3 square is equal to 9, which means 3 is the square root of 9. Students, we will denote the square root by the way which is being displayed on the screen. So that is what the symbol which we use for denoting a square root.
Yeah, I hope you understood the difference between the square and the square root of a number. So if the number is known, we yesterday tried to understand how to find its square. Multiplying the number by itself, we get the square of the number. But if the square number is known, we should know which number is that which is multiplied 2 times to get this new number. So that number will be called the square root of the given square number. Suppose I give you 4 and ask you what is the square of 4. What will you do? You will take 4 into 4 and tell 16 is the square of 4. Now in that place, now if I give you 16, which is the number, square number known to you, and I ask you which number multiplied by itself will give you 16, then again you should be able to tell me 4 into 4 gives me 16, or in other words, the square root of 16 is 4. Do you understand? 4 square is 16, square root of 16 is 4. Is the difference clear? And as here shown already, the symbol for finding the square root of a number, this is what we use. I think this symbol you have been using quite a number of times by now. So this you should remember is the symbol for the square root. All right. Now there are various ways in which we can find the square root of a given number. So there are 3 major methods that we have to learn. First one is by successive subtraction. The second one is by prime factorization. And the third one is by your long division method. So maybe I can do the successive subtraction today and take up the prime factorization also if time permits. So let us see the subtraction method here. Then when it is the prime factorization and the division method, I will switch over to the board and show you how to do it. Okay. So another 3-4 minutes we shall see how the first method is adopted to find the square root of a given number.
Well, now let's try to look at the examples by using the way we denote the square root. So here we have square root of 9 is equal to 3, square root of 64 is equal to 8, square root of 81 is equal to 9. So in a similar way, you can try to list more number of examples. Well, now let's try to discuss more about the ways of finding the square roots of a given numbers. In fact, there are many methods which could be discussed, among which let's try to discuss few of them. So firstly, let's try to discuss a method of finding the square root by using repeated subtraction. Well, so in this method of finding the square root through repeated subtraction, we will make use of some of the known ideas. We have already seen that the sum of first n odd natural numbers is given by, well, that is n square. So that means any square number can be written as the sum of successive odd natural numbers starting from 1. We make use of this idea to find the square root of a given number using repeated subtraction. So let's try to look at this method by taking an example. So here let us find out the square root of 25. You observe the following subtractions. 25 minus 1 is equal to 24. 24 minus 3 is equal to 21. 21 minus 5 is equal to 16. 16 minus 7 is equal to 9. And finally, 9 minus 9 is equal to 0. So, if you observe all these subtractions, from 25 we have subtracted successive odd numbers starting from 1. And so, we obtain 0 at the 5th step. Make a count of it, it is the 5th step. So, therefore, we found square root of 25 is equal to 5. Students, we had seen how to find out the square root of a given number through repeated subtraction by taking up an example. So, what we did here is we took the number and we started subtracting the numbers, in fact the odd numbers successively from 1 and so on. And whichever the step where we got 0 at the end, we consider that numbered step as the answer. So, to make it more clear, let us try to look at one more example. So, now let us try to find out the square root of 64. So, as we did earlier, let us try subtracting the numbers, the odd numbers starting from 1 and so on. So, we start with 64 minus 1, which is equal to 63. 63 minus 3 is equal to 60. And so, if you keep repeating the same process, at the 8th step we get 15 minus 15, which is equal to 0. So, here we end up with 0 at the 8th step. So, therefore, square root of 64 is equal to 8.
Yeah, I hope you understood the method of successive subtraction of odd numbers from the given number to obtain its square root. Do you have any doubts in this? Both those examples that he has tried to show there, you can write it down in your classwork so that you know this is one method which can be used to find the square root of a given number. Do you have any doubts in this?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
So these two examples you can take down. Now, this method cannot be adopted for large numbers. See, when you have 3 or 4 digit numbers, successively keep on subtracting the successive odd numbers from the given number will become too large. You may have lots of steps to do to obtain the square root of that number. So what we have devised is the second method, which is called the prime factorization method, which will directly give you the square root of the number without doing lot of work like we have done for the successive subtraction. Now for this, I will get back to the board. So I need to stop presenting here. And I have come back to my screen. I'm going to get back to the board now to explain the prime factorization method. Maybe 1 or 2 examples we shall take and discuss. You may have to pin my screen because only my screen should be visible to you because you're going to look at the board behind me. I hope you understand how to pin your screen in the Google Meet. Can you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, let me get back to the board. Okay, is the board visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the second method to find the square root. So you can write finding. Is there a mirror image which is creating a problem for you?
No, ma'am. It's fine.
No? It's all right? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Finding square roots. The first method we have already done by successive subtraction. I'm not going to discuss that any further. So you may complete that with the example that is given. Maybe you can view the video again to clearly understand. Maybe you wouldn't have been able to write so fast as the video was playing. So leave a gap there for successive subtraction. Now take down the second method, which is the prime factorization method. I think you would have done this prime factorization in your lower classes.
Yes, ma'am.
The prime factorization, it is there in the word itself. So let me take one example and show you how the prime factorization method can be used to find the square root of a given number? Okay, let me take this number 256. You need to find the square root of 256 using the prime factorization method. Now, prime factorization, this you have done so many times when you are finding the HCF and the LCM. So, by prime factorization, what do you mean? You are splitting this given number into their own prime factors. That means you require to take the given number and successively divide it only with prime numbers till you reach 1. So, we are going to successively divide 256 using prime numbers only till we reach the point where you get 1 or maybe a prime number itself. So, I'll start. 256 is an even number. All of us know this. Do you all agree 256 is an even number?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Why is it an even number? How did we identify?
Ma'am, because in the ones place there is a even number, ma'am.
Yes, because in the ones place you have 6. So any number ending with 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8 is an even number. So will it be divisible by 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because 2 is the smallest prime number and the given number is an even number, you will be able to divide it with 2. So to start dividing, 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4, you carry over 1, 2 8s are 16. I hope you can do this directly, otherwise you may have to write down like this in the side and divide. 2 ones are 2. Then you bring down 5, 2 twos are 4. Then again subtract 2 8s are 16. So this is how you get 128 as the quotient. This, I am hopeful in class 8 you can directly do it like this. Do you think you'll be able to do it directly like this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Or
ma'am.
do you have to do this? Some of you may find it difficult to directly write 128 as the quotient while you divide 256 with 2. No harm, you can do this and get back. Alright? Now again you have an even number. So can I still divide it with 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so it becomes 2, 6 are 12 and 2, 4s are 8. Again, if you can't divide it directly, divide and find out. Again, I am getting an even number ending with 4. So, 2, 3s are 6, 2, 2s are 4. Again, an even number. 2, 16 times. Again, 2, 8 times. 2, 4 times. 2, 2 times and 2, 1. So, I have reached a point where I have 1 as the final quotient that you get. So, you can stop it here. So, what I have done, I have factorized 256 using only prime numbers. That means I can split this 256 as 2 multiplied how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So I can write 256 as 2 multiplied 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that's exactly what I want to do. I want to break down the given number into its prime factors. Here it is happening that you have only one prime factor for 256, that is 2 itself. So you are getting it multiplied 8 times, you get 256. So when I use this prime factorization method to find the square root of a given number, what I have to do is, amongst all the prime factors of 256, for every 2 prime factors, you have to take only 1. So how many pairs can you make from this? How many pairs of 2's do you have?
4.
4. So finally you see that for every 1 pair of prime factors, you can take only 1 out. So when I write square root of 256, 256 is 2 multiplied 8 times. But when you want the square root of 256, for every 2 prime factors, you will take only 1. So this pair you have taken 1, 2. For the second pair, you have taken 1, 2. Third pair, there's 1 and this. So square root of 256 will be 2 multiplied 4 times. That is 2 2's are 4, 4 2's are 8 and 8 2's are 16. So the square root of 256 is equal to 16. So this is how you use the prime factorization method to find the square root of any given number. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we will take up one more example and try the prime factorization method. Maybe I cannot take up the division method today. Never mind. I will take it up next week. So we will take up one more example. Say I'll take a bigger number now. I take 2,352. Now you can try this on your own. Come on, start. It is a 4-digit number. It is again an even number, so I can start with the smallest prime number, 2. So start, let me see. If you can't directly divide it with 2, you can divide it separately and write the quotient here, like I did for 256. Start, let me see. Your long division has to start, that is 2352 divided by 2. Now the question may be there in your mind, should I always start dividing only with the prime number 2? Is it necessary that I have to start dividing with only 2 as the prime number, or can I start from somewhere else also? Yes, you can. You can use any of the prime numbers to divide the given number, provided it is divisible by that prime number. For that, you have to know at least you have to recall the divisibility rules. When do you say a number is divisible by 2? When the last digit is an even number. When do you say a number is divisible by 3?
Ma'am, its whole number adds up to.
Yes. When you find the sum of all the digits of a number, of the given number, if it sums up to a multiple of 3 or 3 itself, then the number will be divisible by 3. When will a number be divisible by 5?
Ma'am, its unit place should be 5 or 0.
Correct. If its unit place is 0 or 5, then it will be divisible by 5. Similarly, you should know the divisibility rules of particular numbers so that you can start with that. Now it is very simple because it is an even number. I know it is divisible by 2. So I am going to start dividing. So tell me what you will get. 2 ones are 2. Again 2 ones are 2. 2 carry over 7. Sorry, 1. 2 sevens are 14. And 2 sixes are 12. So you must get 1176. Again, can I divide it with 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, again because it's an even number. So divide, let me see. 1176 divided by 2. 2 5 are 10. You carry over 1. 8s are 16. Because there is 17, you carry over 1 again. Again, 8s are 16. If you cannot directly do this, you can divide and find out the quotient. Again, can I divide with 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because it's an even number. So start. 2 2s are 4. Carry over 1. Because 2 to the 4, 5 minus 4 will be 1, carry over 1. 2 9s are 18. And again 2 4s are 8. Again I can divide with 2. 2 1s are 2, 2 4s are 8. And then 2 7s are 14. I hope you have reached till here.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now 147 is bothering me. Can I divide this with 2?
Ma'am, with 3.
Ma'am, with
You
3,
cannot
ma'am.
divide it with 2 because it is not an even number. But can I divide it with the next prime number? Which is the next prime number? You know, it is 3. Is it divisible by 3? 7 plus 4 plus 1. How much do you get? 12. 12 is a multiple of 3. So definitely it is divisible by 3. So divide with 3. 3. How many times 14? 4 times is 12. Carry over 2. 9 times is 27. Then 49, it is a beautiful square number. You know which number squared will become 49?
7.
Good. So 7 is a prime number, I can accept that. So 7, 7s are 49, 7 ones are 7. So you have factorized 2352 as 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into 3 into 7 into 7. Alright? So you can factorize that and write now. How will you write this? So you will write 2, 3, 5, 2. I hope I have not gone too much at the bottom. Okay. 2, 3, 5, 2 is equal to 2 into 2 into 2 into 2. 4 times you multiply 2. 3 is 1. 7 into 7. As I told you, when I want the square root of a number, for every 2 common factors, you take only 1. So this is one pair, this is one pair, and this is one pair. But there is a problem. What's the problem? 3 does not have a pair at all. So how will you write the square root then? For these 2's, you can write 1, 2. These 2's, you can write 1, 2. For that 7, you can write 7. But 3 will not come out of the square root symbol because it does not have a pair. So this is not a perfect square number. So you will write it like this. The 3 will remain under root the square root itself. So you will have 2 into 2, 4, 4 into 7, 28, and it will become 28 root 3. Whichever factor does not have a pair will remain inside the square root only. All this has come out of the square root because you have pairs for them. But if there is a factor which does not have a pair, it will remain inside the square root symbol only. So the square root of 2352 will be 28 root 3. If you have to make it a perfect square, can you guess what should you do to make this 2352? If it has to become a perfect square, what should be done?
Into 3.
Yes, you have to bring a pair for 3. That means you have to multiply this number with 3 to make it a perfect square. Such kind of questions are also interesting. See, because you know that a given number is not a perfect square, when you want to make it a perfect square, you will go and find out which factor is not having a pair. And you will multiply the given number with that factor so that also will come up as a pair. 3 ke matra, there is no pair. So if I put one more 3 into it, on multiplication with 2352, you will make this number 2352 a perfect square number. Clear? So I think we will stop here for today. Maybe we can take up the next method, that is the long division method, which can be used for decimals also. Now this prime factorization method has got a limitation because it cannot be used to find the square root of decimals. So we have evolved and we have found the third method, which allows me to find the square root of any given number. It can be a very large number, it can be a decimal number also. So that is the final method that you have to learn, and this method is going to be very useful for you in the future classes in class 9 and 10. When you go there, you should know to find the square root of very large numbers, even decimal numbers. That's why we are teaching this method to you in the class 8. So you should learn it properly. That maybe I will take it up in the next class because I have to do quite a number of problems to make you understand, because it has got a sequence of steps to be followed and you have to follow it very carefully without any errors to complete the square root. So I think I will stop recording now.